this. I think this is something that's very important for our community right now, and something that people have a lot of interest in. I've been talking for really the last couple of weeks about a violent crime initiative that we have been working on for a while, and we've certainly seen it's necessary at this point to get it going. It's and I'm just going to talk about the program, give you an overview of what it is, and then and talk about what it isn't, and then I can open it up for questions kind of at the end. We're referring to the program as a Violence Intervention Program, or the VIP for short. It will run between now and the end of August 31st of this year. At that time, we'll be reevaluating, and really we're evaluating the program as we go month by month through this to see how effective we're being and how we need to change. But the reason for this program is due to the increase in the use of firearms in serious violent crimes. This is including shootings, murders, aggravated assaults, robberies, and other crimes involving firearms. We have seen a need to take a strong stand and develop a plan for decreasing the number of these crimes happening and decreasing the number of illegal firearms on the streets. So the units that would be involved in this are coming from two different divisions within our department. The first set is coming out of our Organized Crime Division and will include our Major Crime Suppression Unit, our Firearms Unit, and Mid-Level Narcotics Unit. On the investigative side, and coming from one of our investigative divisions, are the following units: our Homicide Unit, our Aggravated Assault Unit, which really handles all the violent crime that is not a homicide, and our Robbery Unit. So I'm going to talk about the first set of units first, and those are the ones that are coming from our Organized Crime Division. They will provide really what is the operational portion of this plan, and will pinpoint those individuals that through our investigations we find are committing violent crime using firearms. I think it's important to state that this is not a hotspot or dragnet type operation. It is rather a data-driven and evidence-based operation where we will be using our crime analysis section to provide timely information to those officers, and that will drive the operation to find those specific individuals that are committing these crimes. On the investigative part, we will be using our the violent crime units that I described earlier coming from our investigation section, and they will work to directly investigate those gun cases that are involving violence. They'll be working very closely with our partners at the county and district attorney's offices to ensure that the appropriate resources are not only being applied by the police department, but are being applied from those offices as well. I have spoken directly with both District Attorney Jose Garza and County Attorney Delia Garza, and both are very supportive of these efforts. We're also partnering with our task forces. So, and particularly I'm talking about ATF here, or alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, to look for opportunities to leverage their expertise and resources and to bring more federal firearms cases to our U.S. Attorney's Office. Our communication with both ATF and the U.S. Attorney's Office have been very well received, and they are in a similar way very supportive of these efforts. So all of this is being put in place so that we can ensure that we're doing our part as the police department to help keep all parts of our community safe. The goal of the operation is to drive overall gun violence rates down over the operational period, and to hold those who would do violent harm to our community accountable. In turn, I would ask our community to partner with us. I've been talking ever since I kind of took over the interim role about continuing to have community engagement, continuing to provide police services the way that we think that our community wants them delivered. And part of this is really asking the community to be part of this overall effort, and in doing their part, what that really means is calling 911 when they witness one of these violent gun crimes, or if they have information regarding one of these crimes, again, call 911 and help us bring these people to justice. Those are really the broad kind of parts of that plan. I know that people on this call also want to talk about our preparations for a verdict in the former officer Derek Chauvin trial. And I can talk about that now as well, and then kind of open it up for questions at the very end. What I can tell you with regards to that is that the Austin Police Department has been anticipating the end of this trial for some time, and we have had plans in place to make sure that we are prepared for large gatherings. The goal of our preparations is to make sure that those large gatherings are able to assemble peacefully, that people are able to come out and exercise their First Amendment rights, and that they can do so safely, and then also to be prepared should those peaceful gatherings at some point change and become violent or become destructive. And I can tell you that our department is ready to do that. We are going on tactical alert once again. This is not a new phenomenon. We've done this many, many times. And really, again, just as a reminder, what that means is that we're asking all of our officers who are coming to work, regardless of their assignment, to be in uniform and be prepared to respond if needed. And so that will give us a much greater number of officers that are available to do that, aside from what we already have working every single day out on patrol. And so, we're keeping an eye, obviously, on the trial, anticipating potentially a verdict in the case next week. And we will be ready to, again, let people exercise their rights to come out. I think that we've always been very supportive of that, and also be able to keep our community safe. So with that, I'll just go ahead and stop right there and see if anyone has any questions.
Chief Chacon, it's Jordan Bonnke over at CBS Austin. I wanted to see if you could elaborate on what crime stats are most concerning to you and what the public should measure to know how safe our city is. There's been a lot of stats that have been brought up recently, in press conference this week about, homicides now being over 20 already in April. And so what crime stats are most concerning to you as part of this program, and what should the public use to measure to know if our city is safe?
So I think it's important, we use formerly UCR and now NIBR's reporting to determine overall where do we stand as a city of our size compared to other cities in the country. And when you look at those, we continue to be one of the safest cities in the United States. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the men and women of the Austin Police Department who help to make that possible. And our community has a big part to do in that as well, and something they should be proud of as well. You mentioned probably one of the most important things that has me concerned, which is our homicide rate. We're up to 23 murders for 2021, and that is pretty, I won't say it's unprecedented, but it is very, very concerning. We haven't seen these type of homicide rates since the 90s. And if we continue at this rate, there's a potential that we could have the most murders that we've ever seen in our city. That is not a statistic that we want to see happen. And so that is part of what is driving this. The overall gun crime rate, I released our gun crime report just a few weeks ago, which went up through the end of 2020. And so when you look from when we really started producing these reports in 2015 to the end of 2020, we've had a 124% increase in gun crime. And that, again, is hugely concerning to me. So it was very important when I took over in the interim role that we go ahead and develop this plan, that we implement it, that we go through the following months to really See how are we being successful? Are we driving this rate down? And to me, that is how we're going to determine success in this. Month over month, year over year, what we're seeing is that this crime continues to increase. And what we want to do is start driving that crime rate down. And so we will be evaluating the plan on an ongoing basis and making those determinations kind of on the fly.
Chief, this is Kevin Clark with KXAN. With regard to this initiative, APD already leverages its federal partners, and violent crime, I'm sure, is the highest priority for APD already. So what makes this different? What makes this initiative different? Is it just more resources? Like, what's the difference maker to you in this? Why is this a step forward, and why?
Sure. So many of the units that I just named right there, they investigate crimes that involve firearms, but they also investigate other types of crimes. For instance, our narcotics unit, not every single narcotics case is going to have a firearm component. We have robberies that occur that do not involve a firearm. And of course, in our homicide unit, not every homicide involves a firearm. But what we're going to be doing is really pivoting and paying very close attention to those cases that do, so that we are able to provide that information back to that operational part that I was talking about. One of the things that we do as a department is provide a daily report on the shootings that occur in the city, whether or not somebody is hit. Many of those shootings, we have reports of shots fired where nobody is injured. We're going to be looking at every single one of those and determining if there's the ability to follow up with it, if there's information that we can provide to our investigators that will help solve other cases, even in the cases where no one was hit. So, we've got some parts of the plan that I'm not really going into too much that are going to allow us to really take all of this data and hopefully be able to use it to find, locate, and get into custody those individuals that are committing these very violent crimes.
Hello, Chief. Hojan from the Austin American Statesman. The state legislature currently, or yesterday, had the initial passage of the permitless carry bill that has been getting a lot of attention. Could you provide us some thoughts, especially with this initiative being announced today?
Yeah, I know of at least a couple of House bills, and I believe those are the ones that you're referencing right now that are moving forward in the legislature. And I think that we're talking really two different things here. So I'm going to go ahead and reserve my comments on those, because those are potentially people that are legally owning firearms, and whether or not they should have to get a permit and how that should be. And that's not what this is. This is for illegally owned firearms and for people committing crimes.
I don't want to step on anybody, but I do have a couple other questions. Chief, are you guys noticing that these violent crimes that are being committed with guns, are you finding that a lot of these are illegally possessed?
Many of them are illegally possessed. They, I can't get into the numbers, but I can tell you, just looking at the reports that we have produced, that a number of them are stolen. So they have been either stolen in a home burglary or a vehicle burglary. We do run across, from time to time, ghost guns or guns that are illegally manufactured. And then there are the larger cases that we know about and that we're working with our federal partners on some of these task forces where we have gun runners. And so, I'm just very concerned about the number of illegally possessed firearms and how we can curb that.
Chief, it's been mentioned from some other city leaders that crime isn't just up here in Austin, but it's up across the country. Can you elaborate on if you're seeing or if you're monitoring crime up in other cities that are similar to Austin? Is it a national trend, not just here for Austin?
I would completely agree with that sentiment. It is up across the country in a number of different categories, and particularly gun crime. So yes, I think that's an accurate statement. It's something that, as I've collaborated with colleagues in other cities, and they're expressing the same kind of frustrations that we are about where we are with gun crime. I have to concentrate, obviously, here in Austin and make sure that we're keeping our citizens safe from this type of crime.
Chief, how are you tracking just the sheer number of illegally possessed guns? What does the trend say in recent years, and how big is NIBIN or ballistics in this process? Is that part of this initiative, or was that going on before?
It was going on before, but it is a big part of this initiative. So we do use NIBIN to enter ballistic information into the federal database. We are, hoping to gain investigative leads out of that, and potentially provide investigative leads to other agencies that may be struggling with the same problem. Ballistics we have a very good ballistics experts that actually reside in our forensics division, or in the forensics division, and so we're kind of leveraging all of these different tools that we have to try to, again, have good arrests, and we're able to make good cases. I can't remember who it was that asked a question to you or a question before on what makes this different. Many of the crimes involving guns, we typically charge at the state level. They're involved in some type of a case that involves a state or a Texas Penal Code charge, as opposed to a federal charge. And so we will be looking to do more with our partners at the U.S. Attorney's Office to go ahead and charge federally where it's appropriate and where it's possible.
Just a quick clarification question on the tactical alert with potential rallies. Is the department currently on tactical alert?
We are not. It will be starting on Monday.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I think we have time for one more question. I just want to stick within our time frame because we do need to be able to provide remarks in Spanish as well.
I don't want to step on anybody else's toes, like Kevin had mentioned earlier, but I do want to know if you can explain the purpose for the program that runs through August 31st. Typically, crime in the summer for cities like Austin does see a spike. Does that play a role here? And what is the purpose for the program here to run through the end of August?
That is our initial operational period to determine the efficacy of the program, and to determine, okay, have we started to really make a difference, and we're seeing fewer crimes, or are they continuing, and do we need to go ahead and extend the program? So I don't want to make it sound like on August 31st we're definitely ending the program. That will be really a good point where we will determine how effective this program is, whether we need to tweak it to enhance it, or we need to look at a different strategy.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief. If we can go ahead and provide remarks in Spanish at this time.
Okay, sounds good. Buenas tardes, soy el jefe de la policía aquí en Austin, aquí para hablar sobre el programa que se llama la intervención de violencia. La programa va a pasar hoy hasta la fin de agosto de este año. La razón para el programa es hay más crimen que está ocurriendo usando armas, y incluido homicidios, asaltos agravados, robos y otros crímenes que es muy grave. Nosotros, la policía, necesita hacer algo, una plana para parar estos crímenes. Las unidades que están involucradas en este programa son de dos partes del departamento. La primer parte es la Major Crime Suppression Unit. Hay otra unidad de armas y también una unidad de narcóticos. En el otro lado, los investigadores son de la unidad de homicidio, de asalto agravado y también robo. Este programa nosotros queremos arrestar las personas que está haciendo estos crímenes violentos y usar toda la evidencia que tenemos nosotros para poner un caso contra esas personas para trabajar con nuestros socios en las oficinas de abogado de condado y distrito y también con la oficina de abogado de los Estados Unidos que están en el lado federal. Todos estos esfuerzos nosotros estamos haciendo porque es el trabajo de la policía para poner toda la comunidad en seguridad. Queremos bajar los crímenes que están usando armas entre hoy hasta agosto. Y en agosto vamos a saber si el programa está efectivo o necesita hacer algo más o diferente. ¿Hay preguntas?
In Spanish, Chief, can you elaborate on what the community should be looking at crime stat wise to know how safe the city is?
Did you say crime stat wise?
Yeah.
Okay. Es importante. Ustedes, la comunidad, son socios con la policía. Y si ustedes van a ver un crimen que la persona está usando un arma o tienes información en eso, por favor, llámela al 911. Si ustedes están haciendo eso, es posible para la policía, para seguridad, la comunidad con su ayuda.
Chief, soy Luis Acosta de Univisión. ¿A qué se debe este aumento, o a qué cree usted que se debe este aumento de crimen en la ciudad?
La crimen para una ciudad que es el tamaño de Austin en los Estados Unidos es bajo. Pero hay más crimen que los sospechosos están usando un arma. Y eso es la razón para este programa. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate the time, the questions. I think that, just as a kind of a last comment that I would make, that I think it's really important for the community to hear. I have been talking ever since I took over in an interim role about the importance of community engagement, about listening to our community, working with our community to solve community problems, and this is no different. Simply because this is something that is more, we can define as a crime and everybody can agree is something that we need to drive down, that we need to get on top of this problem. The police department cannot do it alone. I would ask our community, our citizens to please be careful, to really, if you can partner with us by helping with the information that you might have involving these types of crimes, That is going to help us with this operation. That is going to start driving down our numbers, and most importantly, that is what is going to save lives. I want to thank everybody for the opportunity. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Chief.
Chief.